Welcome back to another math video with Math Rocks with Mr. Cox. I don't think it would surprise any of you if I told you that after 30 years of teaching high school math that most students fear most fractions and word problems. So I decided to dedicate this video to how to set up the equations for word problems like these. So without any further ado, let's get it on. So let's go ahead right now and take a look at the first word problem. You were given a $50 gift card to a local cafe, lucky you, and then you decide to buy a latte every day for $4. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to write an equation that really accounts for two different variables. One is the amount of money left over, and the other is the number of days that have elapsed so far. And then you'll notice here in the question it says define your variables. So we'll talk about what that means too. So before we do that, let's just make a little chart over here. So what we know is when you first get that card, you have $50 on it. So nothing's happened yet. There's no days, but we know we have $50. So one day in, you spent $4 and now you're down to 46. Pretty easy math, right? 2 days in, you buy another latte that's another $4 off. Now we're down to 42. 3 days in, buy another latte. Now we're down to 38. So we're going to just keep doing that over and over and over again, and you can see what happened here. We subtract 4 again, we're down to 34. So let's stop here and let's talk about a way that we could actually write these numbers here in dollars left a little bit different. So what I know is that on this first calculation here, that was our $50. Next, we took $50 and we subtracted 4. All right. On 42, if we were to start with the original $50, what we've done here is we've actually subtracted 8. And on the next one, we've actually subtracted $12 from that original 50. And on the last one here, it was $16 off that original 50. So what you can notice here is in this calculation so far, we always start with $50. Now what we can also do is we can rewrite this slightly different. So this, for instance, this 0 would be 0, could be written as 4 times 0. This could be written as 4 times 1, which kind of makes sense because after one day we spent $4. We could write 8 as 4 times 2, and that also makes sense because after 2 days we spent $4 each day. 12 can be written as 4 times 3, and then finally 16 can be written as 4 times 4. So altogether, you'll notice every single expression here is always $50, and we're subtracting 4 times some number. And that number is always associated with the number of days. So here's how this equation is going to work. What we need to do is we need to define our variables because we're going to be using variables that represent those two situations, the amount of money left and the number of days. So I'm going to go ahead and say X is the number of days and Y would be the amount of money left. So I'm going to define my variables by saying this over here. Let X equals the number of days, and then I'm going to say Y, or let Y, excuse me there, equal the amount of money left over. So to write our equation here, it doesn't matter which line we went to, 50 was going to be what we always start with. So we can say the amount of money left over, which is going to be Y, is always going to be 50 and then minus 4, and it was always times the number of days that have elapsed so far. Well, number of days is X, so we can simply say 4X. So there you have it. That's your equation. Y equals 50 minus 4X, or if you prefer, you could also write it as negative 4X plus 50. And just to sanity check this here, let's say we want to say X was 4 days. We'd already calculated that. So after 4 days, we would say, what is 50 minus 4 times 4? Well, 4 times 4 is 16. So what is 50 minus 16? And it is 34, which checks with our last one we put on our chart over here. If you like what you've seen and heard so far, please like, comment, or subscribe. Thank you, and back to the show. Our second word problem is going to be a little bit different. First of all, you can see in the directions up here, it says write a system of equations. So that means we're going to need to write 2 or more equations using the information below. Of course, we also need to define our variables as well. So the setup is the local cafe sells coffee for $3 and muffins for $4. At the end of an hour, the cafe had collected $172 and sold 50 items total. So a couple things here. Our equations are going to have to do with, first, the amount of money that came in and also how many items were sold. So that's going to help us set up those 2 equations. So let's take a look first about numbers. So what we know, if I were to say over here, let's go ahead and just define our variables right now. I'm going to say let C equal the number of coffees that were sold. And then I'm going to say let M equal the number of muffins. So now we've gone ahead and used this here to kind of get going. I'm going to make a little chart over here, and here's what I know about the number of coffees and the number of muffins. I know that no matter what, that this is always going to add up to be 50. So for example, let's say I sold 10 coffees. Because we know there's 50 items, there must be 40 muffins. If I had sold 25 coffees, it must be 25 muffins, because these numbers always add up to be 50. If it had been, say, 32 coffees, it must be 18 muffins. So that is going to help us now write our first equation. So we're going to say C plus M equals 50. So once again, it's the number of coffees sold plus the number of muffins sold is going to equal 50. Our second equation is going to involve money. So once again, how do we do this? I do know this. Altogether, there's $172 made. So that can be our right side of our equation for our second equation. But the question is, well, what do we write in here? Well, think about it here for a minute. Let's say if I was just dealing with the number of coffees and I wanted to ask myself, well, how much money do I make? Well, if I sold 1 coffee, that would be $3. If I sold 2, that would be $6. If I sold 3, that would be $9. If I sold 10, that would be $30. If I sold 20, that would be $60. So you'll notice here, every single time what we're doing is we're taking how many we sold and we're multiplying it by 3. So therefore, in our equation, we could simply say, hey, I know I sold C coffee, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to multiply that by 3. And I'm also going to add it to how many muffins I sold, and muffins would not be times 3, it would be times 4. So I'm going to say 4M. So that's it. That's how you actually set up a system of equations here using our variables in play here, the number of coffees and number of muffins, and then you're good to go. Thanks for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it.